Hello and welcome to Watch Releases Recap for the week of January 10th until January the 17th. Today we have actually quite a few exciting releases, so let's get started by first talking about the new Citizen Series 8 Mechanical GMT 880. Citizen has released this 880 GMT back in 2023. It was available in a Batman color scheme with a blue and a black bezel color combination, as well as stainless steel bracelet and a stainless steel case. Ever since then, there were a few different variations of this model, including a limited edition model. Now for 2025 model year, we have another addition to this lineup in this sort of PVD coated gold case with a two-tone finish. You can see that the inner link is a little bit of a different color as opposed to the outer link. Also, the crown guards are different color to the rest of the case. I think that's a pretty smart way to design this watch because it makes it look different and it also fits with the overall design of the watch. Also, having gold and green, those two colors work well together, and of course there is a bit of black on this bezel. It's a GMT watch with a GMT type bezel, and it is a bidirectional bezel action. Also, the dial looks very attractive. It's supposed to be similar to a Tokyo skyline, looking from above down with all the high rises and all the skyscrapers sort of in the distance, which looks kind of like that. I don't really see that, but the pattern itself does make the dial look pretty interesting. There's a date window at the 3 o'clock position, minimal writing, and this one is powered by the Miyota 9 series GMT movement, the caliber 9054, which is of course a true GMT movement. It's a traveler's GMT as it's called. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has 24 joules and about 50 hours of power reserve. In terms of the case dimensions, this watch comes in exactly the same case as the 2023 version. It's about 41 millimeters in diameter, about 13.5 millimeters in case height. It's made out of stainless steel with the yellow and rose gold coating. In terms of the pricing and availability, this is not a limited edition. It's going to be part of the standard catalog, and these watches are priced at around $1,600 USD. The new Tudor Black Bay Chrono Flamingo Blue. Tudor has been really focusing on the Black Bay Chrono line of watches. Earlier in 2024, there was the pink version. Then later that year, we also got the boutique exclusive blue version. And now for 2025, we have this Flamingo Blue. Why is it called Flamingo Blue? I have no idea. Flamingos are usually pink. It would make sense to name the other model Flamingo, but whatever. It's weird naming structures aside. This color is very popular. In other watches, it was called Tiffany Blue. A few years ago, it was the it color. Then it kind of died down, and I guess now Tudor is trying to bring it back, or at least cash in on this color fad. Everything else about the watch is pretty much exactly the same as the other versions. It still comes in the same case, 41 millimeter diameter by about 14.5 millimeters case height. And these ones are a bit on the larger side with the 50 millimeter lug-to-lug distance. So it's probably recommended for people with medium to larger size wrists. It still is powered by the same caliber MT5813, which is essentially a modified Breitling 01 movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has about 70 hours of power reserve and 47 joules. The watch still comes with 200 meters of water resistance, and it's not a limited edition. This will be part of the standard catalog. I think this will be a pretty difficult watch to get, just like the pink version, but I think it will be maybe a little bit easier than the pink version because I think pink is very limited. This one here hopefully will be more readily available. So if you want to buy one of these watches, it's about $5,875 on the stainless steel Jubilee bracelet. The new Omega Speedmaster Moonphase Meteorite models. It seems like almost every month we're talking about a new version of the Speedmaster. I am really hoping that Omega is not going to flood the market with too many Speedies, because if you're not a crazy Speedmaster enthusiast, it's kind of hard to keep track of all the different models. Now this model here is sort of a newer version of already existing model line that was sort of discontinued and now brought back in a sportier, smaller case with some modern touches. Since pretty much 2003, there has been some sort of a Moonphase version of the Speedmaster, which kind of makes sense because the Speedmaster is known for their moon watch and the moon landing and the whole thing. So of course, having a Moonphase makes a lot of sense for these type of watches. So this newest version, 2025 version, is pretty much another take on the 2016 version, but shrunken in the smaller case. From my understanding, the case of these new Meteorite Moonphase models is exactly the same as the Speedmaster chronoscope, with a slight thickness added. So these ones are about 43 millimeters in diameter, about 1 millimeter larger than the standard Moon watch, and they're also about 13.6 millimeters in case height, which is not bad because the older version of this watch, the 2016 version of this watch, was over 16 millimeters in case height. So that's quite a difference. But of course, that version was automatic. This new version is hand wound. These watches are also not too bad in terms of like-to-like distance. They're about 48.5 millimeters. So for such a large watch, it actually wears pretty well. In terms of the movement is actually also very similar to the chronoscope models, of course, with the added module of the Moonphase complication. The Moonphase complication is located at the 6 o'clock position, and now you have this added scale of the age for the moon. I myself personally don't really understand how all these things work, but apparently if you know, you could read how young the moon is based on this scale. I don't really like that north and south hemisphere addition to the dial. I don't think that's necessary. Maybe just add the sort of darker and lighter color without the north and south letters, but hey, that's just my personal preference. And apparently the little moons are actually made out of parts of the moon, which I think is a pretty nice touch. And also the stars around the moon, they're not just random. Supposedly it's exactly the same layout as the stars that could have been found on the night of Apollo 11 mission in 1969, which is kind of a cool idea and a bit of a marketing fugazi, if we're being honest. The other part of the dial that really stands out, other than this Moonphase complication, is of course the Meteorite dial. Once again, Omega has offered quite a few different models of the Speedmaster with Meteorite dials, and just like the Moonphase, this part of the design also makes a lot of sense. You have Meteorite, you have a moon watch, you have First Omega in space, all these different things, different space missions. So of course, all that sort of ties in together. I think Meteorite dials work really well on the Speedmaster models. There are two different colors of this watch available, one in the standard black color combination with a black tachymeter scale and black subdials, the other one in a blue color combination with blue tachymeter scale and blue subdials. And of course, the color of the Meteorite differs between the two. The blue version has a lighter shade of Meteorite as opposed to the black version. As I briefly mentioned about the movement, this one is the caliber 9911. It's an in-house master chronometer movement that beats at 4 Hz. It has 45 joules and about 60 hours of power reserve. It is also anti-magnetic to 15,000 Gauss. It is a META certified movement. Excellent movement, and you can admire it through the case back. However, the movement's design is not the most attractive. I mean, yes, you have this beautifully finished plate, but that's about it. That's the only part of the movement that is interesting to see. You also have the balance wheel taking there, but I think having the display case back for this movement, it's not really necessary, right? I mean, there's not much to look at. In fact, I think they should have done a closed case back and shaved off maybe like a millimeter of the thickness of this watch, because this case back is not really doing that much heavy lifting. But maybe you disagree with me. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about this display case back? Should you have it? Should you not? I always enjoy reading your comments. Lastly, the price and availability. This is not a limited edition. It's part of the standard catalog, and these watches are priced at around 17,100 USD. I think that's a pretty steep price for this watch. It doesn't come in a precious metal. Yes, it comes with a Meteorite dial, but almost 20 grand for this watch. I don't know what's going on with watch prices lately. I think it's too steep. The new Oris Diver 65, the 60th anniversary edition. Oris Diver 65 came out in, as you guessed it, 1965. It was actually the very first diver watch that Oris has made. And over the years, there have been a few different editions of this watch. including a very similar looking watch to the one we're going to talk about today. However, this new version just has been tweaked and improved in some very subtle but important ways. First of all, the dial got a few slight tweaks in terms of its design. These vintage numerals are more faithful to the original as opposed to the previous version of this watch. You also have the old vintage Oris font on the dial, which looks pretty good. And lastly, they got rid of the date wheel. Now, I know that some people really like date wheels on a dial. I personally think that this watch does not need a date wheel. The design right now without the date wheel, in my opinion, looks so much cleaner. They also cleaned up the look of the bezel. First of all, they replaced the triangle with the giant lume pip, which I think looks very vintage inspired. Secondly, the teeth around the bezel, the coin edge, is now executed in stainless steel instead of black, and I think that also looks much better. Lastly, there have been a few small improvements to the tolerances of the bracelet. However, they didn't mess with the things that really matter, like the sizing of this watch. It still comes in a 40mm case diameter. It's about 12.8mm in case height and about 48mm from one lug to another. So the sizing is really good. This one also is still powered by the same movement caliber 733, which is essentially a Sellita SW200. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has 26 joules and 38 hours of power reserve. And why is that important? Well, this is one of the introductory models of Oris's lineup, so that's why it doesn't get the caliber 400. Their new in-house movement with a very high power reserve, and by all means, a pretty good movement. At this point, they have modified it and improved it, but that of course would drive the price of this watch way higher. So as it is right now, it is not a limited edition. It's part of the standard catalog and it's priced at around 2,500 USD, which in my opinion is a pretty fair price for this watch. Yes, it's a Sellita movement, but the package that you get, the history that you get, yeah, 2,500 bucks, not too bad. The Vacheron Constantin Historic 222 is now finally available in stainless steel. Vacheron Constantin 222 is considered as part of the stainless steel watch Holy Trilogy. You have the AP Royal Oak, you have the Patek Philippe Nautilus, and then you have the Vacheron Constantin 222. Original versions of these watches from 1970s are very expensive. They always sell for crazy amounts at auctions because collectors go crazy over these watches. In 2022, Vacheron Constantin released this watch in a yellow gold case with a gold dial, and it has been a very popular watch, but of course it's very expensive. I think it's close to 50,000 USD. Now for 2025, they finally have given us a stainless steel version of this watch. And first, let's talk about the good things about this watch, and then I'm going to talk about some of the things that I really dislike about this model. So first, the good stuff. It still comes in a historically accurate 37mm case diameter. It's also not a thick watch at 8mm in case height. As I mentioned, it comes in a stainless steel case with brushed and polished accents. It has that historically accurate notched bezel design, and I really like the shade of blue chosen for this dial. I'm also really glad that they just chose to use a brushed design to the dial as opposed to giving this dial texture. That would make it look like a lot of other watches in the industry. This way it really stands out and it kind of makes it its own thing. And now let's talk about some of the things that I'm not so keen on. First of all, the movement of this watch. So it comes powered by the caliber 2455-2. It's an in-house movement that is beautiful. It comes with an 18 karat yellow gold rotor. It has 27 joules. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, but it only has about 40 hours of power reserve. And yes, they chose this movement because they wanted to keep this watch on the thinner side, but there are competitors to this watch that come with very thin movements that still offer 70, 80 hours of power reserve. 40 hours of power reserve for a brand new 2025 release, I think is kind of unacceptable. The other sort of unacceptable part is 50 meters of water resistance. Again, this is a luxury watch, but it's also supposed to be a sports watch. And I know that the competitors offer similar specs and similar water resistance, similar sort of power reserve, if we compare it to the Royal Oak, if we compare it to the Nautilus. But this was a chance for Vacheron Constantin to sort of stand out because it is not known as the other two brands, right? It is pretty much always in that third spot in this holy trilogy, so to speak. So releasing a watch with better specs, giving us something new, something exciting would have been better, right? Why don't they do some specs that are just gonna blow the other two out of the water? In my opinion, this is just a lazy release. The other part that I'm not keen on is the butterfly clasp without any micro adjustments. Again, just lazy. You know what I mean? They could have given us something much better than this. They could have stayed accurate to the historic model and given us better movement, given us some micro adjustments on the clasp, given us higher water resistance, and then really this watch would stand up from the competition because they would be like, whoa, okay, now why would you choose a Royal Oak if you can have this watch? But of course, we all know the game. This watch will just sell out. It's going to be very difficult to get. It's going to be trading for a premium on the resale market. They're going to have no problems selling this watch. And that's why they are giving us these sort of lazy releases. But hey, I'm just a guy on YouTube that probably will never buy a watch like this because first of all, I can't afford one. But secondly, it's not just my cup of tea. So, you know, my opinion doesn't matter. It's just my opinion. Let me know what you think about this release, about this watch. Do you think I'm wrong? Or do you agree with me and you think that this release is just a bit lazy and they could have tried harder? And in terms of pricing and availability, this is not a limited edition. However, it is exclusive to the boutiques. And this watch is priced at 32,000 USD. But as I mentioned earlier, the price of this watch doesn't really matter because it's pretty much impossible to buy one. The new Bulova Snorkel collection with hybrid ceramic cases. Ever since the introduction of the Moonphase watch, I have been waiting for more watch companies to get on board with this trend, and here we are. Bulova, or the Citizen Group, is getting on board, trying to capitalize on the success / popularity of these types of watches. This new release from Bulova is actually based on a model from 1970s, the oceanographer Snorkel, with that iconic C-shaped case. Now, instead of having these watches in a stainless steel case, they will be available in this bioceramic case. The specific blend of this bioceramic case hasn't been revealed yet, but apparently it will be pretty scratch resistant, which is one of the downsides of the Moonphase watch. That watch is almost plastic. It's very easy to scratch. This one here is supposed to be a little bit more durable. It comes in a 41mm case diameter, about 13.5mm in case height. These ones are quartz powered Miyota 2115, which has a stated accuracy of plus/minus 20 seconds per month. And since these watches kind of look like diver watches, they have a pretty good water resistance, about 100 meters, but of course, no one's really gonna take these watches diving or anything like that. Currently, 4 different color combinations have been revealed. My favorite is probably this white dial version with the blue and gray bezel. I think that actually looks pretty good. And all versions come on rubber straps. Just depending on which version you get a different color rubber strap. In terms of the pricing, these ones are priced at 350 USD, and they should be available pretty soon from, I guess, Citizen and Bulova retailers. Now, my initial thought about this watch was, yeah, this is a pretty good idea. But then the more I thought about it, the more I have doubts about this release. And in my opinion, Bulova will have a pretty difficult time selling these watches. Because first of all, the standard Bulova watch is not much more expensive than this one. You can get a Bulova that is in a stainless steel case with proper specs with an automatic movement. You can also get some pretty nice Citizen ProMaster models for around 350 USD. So why would you choose this watch specifically? And Bulova is not Swatch, Bulova is not Omega. It doesn't have the same popularity as those brands. Pretty much watch enthusiasts will know what Bulova is, but general public doesn't really. So I'd be very, very surprised if this watch breaks out into the mainstream. And lastly, let's talk about Girard-Perragaux Laureato Chronograph with the ice blue dial. Last year, Girard-Perragaux has given us a titanium version of this watch that was pretty well received, although it was a bit too expensive. Now for 2025, we pretty much got the same watch in a stainless steel case with a blue dial. The color of this blue is actually pretty attractive. I think it works really well with this sort of brushed case design. And overall, the case design and the dial together, in my opinion, just work really well. I think this one looks better than the monochrome gray version. It still comes in the same dimensions, 42mm diameter by about 12mm case height, which is really impressive because this is an automatic chronograph watch. It's powered by the movement caliber GP03-300. It's an in-house modular chronograph movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has 63 joules and 46 hours of power reserve. Now these watches will be limited edition to only 180 pieces, and they're priced around 19,000 USD. So pretty expensive and pretty limited release. And that's it for this week's releases. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about the watches I covered this week. Did you like them? Did you not like them? I always enjoy reading your comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.